Good day, students. Welcome to your second week in basic calculus. And our lesson will be about limits of some transcendental functions and some indeterminate forms. Here are our learning competencies. First is to compute the limits of exponential, logarithmic, and trigonometric functions using tables of values and graphs of the functions. Second, illustrate limits involving the expressions sine t over t, 1 minus cosine t over t, and e raised to t minus 1 over t, and using table of values. Here are our learning objectives. All right, so we will recall about the evaluation of functions for the exponential, logarithmic, and trigonometric functions. So like what we have done in our first week, we have evaluated polynomial and rational functions. So what we are going to do here is also we will be substituting the given values of x to our functions. For the first one and second, we have exponential functions. So here, we have f of x is equal to 6 raised to 2x minus 5, evaluating when x is equal to 2. So substituting 2 to all of the x's in our function, we have f of 2 that will be equal to 6 raised to 2 multiply to x, which has a value of 2 minus 5. All right, so now we will get 6 raised to 2 times 2 is 4 minus 5. So the exponent will be, further simplifying this, we'll get 6 raised to negative 1. Okay. And if we have negative exponent, di ba? So mapupunta yung ating number sa denominator. So we will have 1 over 6. Okay. So our final answer is f of 2 is equal to 1 over 6. Okay. We'll have the next number. F of x is equal to 2 over 5 raised to 3x plus 5 over 2x plus 3 when x is equal to negative 1. So what will be the value of our function? So we'll have f of negative 1 that is equal to 2 all over 5. Okay. That is raised to, okay, ang exponent niya ay 3 multiply to negative 1 plus 5 over 2 multiply to negative 1 plus 3. Okay, so simplify the exponent. We have 2/5 raised to 3 times negative 1 is negative 3 plus 5 will get positive 2 all over. Okay, so 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 plus 3 will get 1. Right? So further simplify 2 over 5 raised to 2. Okay? So rules of exponents. Okay? Pag meron tayong fraction na naka-raise sa exponent, that will be distributed to the numerator and the denominator. We will get 2 raised to 4 all over 5. I mean 2 raised to 2 all over 5 raised to 2. Our final answer will be 4 over 25. So for our function, for this function, so for our item number 2, f of negative 1 will be equal to 4 over 25. Let us now have the logarithmic function. So it involves the logarithm. Okay, so again, we will just substitute the given value to the x's. So we'll have f of 10 that will be equal to the logarithm of x squared or 10 squared plus 2 times 10 plus 5. Okay, so our base is 5. Logarithm of 10 squared or x squared plus 2x plus 5 to the base 5. Okay, so simplify muna natin yung nasa loob ng parenthesis. So we'll get logarithm to the base 5 of 10 squared is 100 plus 2 times 10 is 20 plus 5. Right? So further simplify, you get logarithm of 125 to the base 5. Okay? So what is a logarithmic function? So basically this is an inverse of exponent, di ba? Okay, so we can rewrite this using exponential expression. So this logarithm of 125 to the base 5 can be rewritten as 5 raised to something. Okay, we can set it as x that will be equal to 125. So basically, ang tinatanong ng logarithm function is kung ano yung magiging exponent niya. Okay, so think of a number that um, or think of an exponent kapag ni-raise natin. Okay, our answer will be 125. So our base is still 5. Okay, so you can also use our calculator here. Okay, so we can use our calculator in computing the logarithm function. So logarithm of the base 5 of 125, that will be equal to 3. So basically, the exponent must be 3, okay, for 5 to be equal to 125. Okay, so our answer will be 3. Okay, so let's move on to our next example. So f of 9, that will be equal to logarithm of, for the numerator, we have 2 times 9 minus 17 all over 9 raised to 3 plus 5 times 9 squared minus 15 times 9 plus 1. Simplify natin yung nasa loob ng parenthesis. We will get 18 minus 17 all over 9 raised to 3 is 20 is okay 729 plus 5 times 81 minus 15 times 9 plus 1. Okay. So from this, we can simply substitute or input this full equation to our calculator. So compute natin, logarithm of 18 minus 17 is 1 all over 729 plus 5 times 81 minus 15 times 9 plus 1. And we will get final answer of negative 3. Okay, so our final answer, f of 9, will be equal to negative 3. Our next some examples. So for 5 and 6, we will have now the trigonometric functions. So as we can see here, we have the sine and the cosine functions. So these are trigonometric functions. So for f of x is equal to sine of x squared plus 5x plus 6, okay, we will evaluate it at x is equal to 13. So this expression na nasa loob ng parenthesis is naka degree measure. Okay, so let's find f of 13. That will be equal to sine of 13 squared plus 5 times 13 plus 6. Okay, and we will get sine of 169 plus 5 times 13 plus 6. Okay. Let's get the value of 169 plus 5 times 13 plus 6. We will get 240. So, meaning we will get the sine of 240. Okay, since sabi naka-degree measure, this is in degrees. So, sine 240 degrees is, you recall your unit circle. Okay, so we have studied it on your pre-calculus. So sine 240 degrees, you can check using our calculator. So sine 240 degrees is equal to negative square root of 3 all over 2. Okay? Or much better if you can remember or memorize your unit circle. So f of 13 is equal to negative square root of 3 all over 2. So last, for f of x is equal to cosine 4x minus 16, when x is equal to 4, so we will get f of 4 is equal to cosine of 4 times 4 minus 16. So we will get cosine of 16 minus 16. That will be cosine of 0 degrees. So what will be the cosine of 0 degrees? Okay, that will be equal to 1. So our f of 4 will be equal to 1. Okay, so that's it for the recall on evaluating transcendental functions. Now we will jump to our definition of terms. So recall natin what is a limit again. So the limit to be denoted by L is the unique real value that f of x will approach as x approaches c. So ang limit daw pala ay yung unique real value din na ina-approach ni f of x or ni y, diba? Siya yung y coordinate, okay? As x approaches c. So on the other hand, what is a transcendental function? So based on our title, we are evaluating the limits of the transcendental functions. So a function which is not an algebraic function. In other words, a function which transcends. Okay, so other than polynomial and rational function, so it cannot be expressed in terms of algebra. So examples of transcendental functions include yung kaninang in-evaluate natin, okay? The exponential, we have the exponential function, the logarithmic functions, and the trigonometric functions. Okay? And pwede rin nating evaluate yung inverse ng mga functions na to. So now, again, we will be evaluating limits of some transcendental functions. So for number 1, we'll evaluate the limit of 2 raised to x plus 2. So for our second, we'll evaluate the limit of logarithm of 3x plus 1. Okay, and for number 3, we will evaluate the limit of 5x squared plus 10. So for this, for number 1, again, like what we did in the first week, no? Nung nag-evaluate tayo ng limit ng mga polynomial functions, so we will be using table of values. Okay, so para makita natin kung anong ina-approach na value ni f of x. Okay, so ito yung x, then second column is f of x. Okay. So you can try it yourself. We'll just substitute the given values of x dun sa ating given na function. Okay. And as we can see here, given, tingnan natin mabuti kung saan yung given na ina-approach ni x. So for our first item, okay, as x approaches 1, so the values, as we can see here, x approaches 1 from the left. These values are less than 1, but it gets closer and closer to 1. And this value, as x approaches 1 from the right, okay, these values are higher than or greater than 1, but it also gets closer to 1. Okay? And also, ganun din po yung nangyari para sa second and third functions natin. Okay, so for the completed table, so here it is. Okay, so we will be answering our guide questions. For number 1, when can we say that a given function illustrates exponential, letter A, letter B, logarithmic, or trigonometric function. So, kailan daw na natin masasabi na ang function ay exponential, logarithmic, or trigonometric? So, for number 1, so this is an exponential function. So, why? So, para masabi natin na ang function ay exponential, so we must see a variable sa kanyang exponent. So, we could see x plus 2 sa exponent ni 2. So, that's why ang tawag sa function na to ay exponential function. Okay, so for the second one, okay, obvious, logarithmic involves the logarithm. Okay, pag may nakita tayong logarithm, that means siya ay logarithmic function. Okay, so kasama din dito, so kahit anong base 5, base 10, logarithm of base 10. So kapag wala tayong nakitang base, that means ang base niya ay 10. Okay? It also include the logarithm with the base e or the natural logarithm. For our third function, okay, we could see a sine function. Thus, this is a trigonometric function. Okay, so let's have number 2. So how can you describe the two one-sided limits of the first two third example? So dun muna tayo sa exponential function natin. Okay, dito sa blue. So ano masabi natin sa limits nung in-evaluate natin from the left and from the right? Okay, so yung from the left, so you can see here for the values of f of x. So it approaches the value of 7.999446 is really close to 8. Also, nang in-evaluate natin as x approaches 1 from the right, we could see that the values for f of x also approaches the value of 8. Okay? So for the exponential function, okay, so the limits from the left and from the right is equal to 8. Okay, so they are equal or the same. For the logarithmic function naman, so as we evaluate using the values given in our table, it approaches the value of 1. Okay, as we evaluate the limit of our logarithmic function, as x approaches 3 from the left and as x approaches 3 from the right also, f of x approaches the value of 1. Okay, so we can see that they are also equal. Okay, yung limit from the left and from the right. Lastly, for our trigonometric function, so we evaluate using our table of values, it approaches the value of 0.499969. So this is really close to 0.5. And as we also evaluate the limit as x approaches 2 from the right, it approaches the value of 0.5. So the one-sided limits of the first to third example is equal to each other. Okay. Now, for our third guide question, If you will be evaluating the given function from first to third example of A, yan, f of 1, i-evaluate daw natin. Okay. Bakit 1? Kasi yun yung given na ina-approach ni x. So, evaluate natin at f of 1 yung ating function. So, f of 1, that will be 2 raised to 1 plus 2. We will get 2 raised to 3. Okay. Our answer will be 8. So, for our second function, which is the logarithm or logarithmic function, okay, it approaches, we are evaluating it as x approaches 3. So, we'll just substitute 3 to our function. So logarithm of 3 multiplied to 3 plus 1. And we get a logarithm of 9 plus 1. We have 10. Okay. So logarithm of 10, that will be equal to 1. Okay. Again, pag wala tayong nakitang base, so meron niyang 10. So understood na 10 ang ating base. So kapag ano daw exponent ni 10 para maging equal siya sa 10. So we must raise 10 to 1 to be equal to 10. So our answer for logarithm of 10, that will be equal to 1. So for our final function, which is the trigonometric function, let us evaluate it at f of 2. So f of 2, sine of 5 times 2 squared plus 10. That will be equal to 5 sine of 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 10 sine of 4 times 5. So this is 4 times 5 is 20 plus 10. That will be sine 30. So this is in degrees. So what is sine 30 degrees? Our answer will be 1/2 or equal to 0.5. All right. So by observing the limit of the given functions, from first to the third example, what can you conclude on evaluating the limits of an exponential, logarithmic, and trigonometric function? So, katulad lang din ng pag-evaluate ng limit ng ating rational and polynomial function. So, we can simply substitute yung ina-approach na value ni x sa ating function para makuha natin yung limit. And that falls to the theorem number 2 based on our lesson last week. Okay, evaluating limits of the functions. Okay, so ang pinagkaiba lang sa lesson natin for this week is we are evaluating transcendental functions. So the exponential, logarithmic, or the trigonometric function. So yun lang yung given natin ngayon. Right? So now, as can be observed on the table of values, if f is either exponential, logarithmic, or trigonometric, and c is a real number, so which is in the domain of f, meaning included siya sa domain ni f, so the limit will be limit of f of x as x approaches c is equal to f of c. Okay, so dapat nasa domain, meaning hindi mag-undefined yung ating answer. Okay, so we will just be evaluating our function at C. So, substitute lang yung value ni C kay X. Okay. So, furthermore, this statement has in connection with theorem number 2, as I have said, which is on the week 1 of our learning material. Moreover, we need to consider the following formula. So number 1, okay, special limits to remember. Limit of a raised to x, okay, kahit anong number for a, basta a must be greater than 1. For example, 5. Tapos ni-raise natin kay x. Okay, this is an exponential function. Okay? So if we will evaluate the limit of a raised to x as x approaches infinity, meaning it approaches or extend to the positive infinity or to a very, very large number. Okay? The answer will be positive infinity. Okay? Pansinin natin, kapag sinubstitute natin, for example, sobrang laking number dito sa 5. So, our answer will also approach positive infinity or a very, very large number. The other hand, kapag negative, okay, large negative ang ginawa nating exponent, yan. Sabi dito, as x approaches negative infinity, so a very, very large number but negative. Pansinin natin, anong nagiging answer natin kapag negative yung ating exponent? Okay, so for example, 5 raised to 1 is 5. 5 raised to negative 1 will be 1 over 5. 5 raised to negative 2 will be 1 over 25. Okay. As we increase the exponent, okay, basta negative siya, our answer, okay, gets smaller and smaller. Okay. So, if yung exponent natin for a greater than 1, yung base natin must be greater than 1, tapos yung exponent natin ay negative, tapos large ang value, large negative number, so it approaches a value of 0. Okay? Again, the limit of a raised to x as x approaches infinity is infinity, and the limit of a raised to x as x approaches negative infinity is 0, basta si a ay greater than 1. What if si a ay between 0 and 1? Okay? So, magbabaligtad siya. Kapag between 0 and 1 yung ating a, for example, we have base of 1/2, tapos i-raise natin kay x. Kapag ni-raise natin sa napakalaking number ang isang fraction, okay, or a decimal value, it approaches a value of 0. Okay? If on the other hand, we raise a fraction to a negative tapos malaking number, a large negative number, it will approach positive infinity. Okay? So, madali lang silang tandaan. Okay? So, parang magkabaligtaran sila. So, for our third, the limit of logarithm of x as x approaches 0 will be negative infinity. Okay? And also the limit of ln x as x approaches 0, the answer is also negative infinity. So basta may involved na logarithm tapos approach niya ay 0. So here is the answer, negative infinity always. Now let us try some examples. So let us evaluate the limit of the given exponential, logarithmic, and trigonometric function. So for our first one, the limit of 1 over 3 raised to 2x minus 5 plus 3 as x approaches 3. Okay, so since 3 is a real number, therefore by theorem 2, we will just evaluate f at 3, okay, to get the limit of f of x as x approaches 3. Okay, so f of 3 lang daw, kunin natin, substitute yung 3 sa mga x. So, we'll get f of 3 that will be equal to 1 over 3 raised to 2 times 3 minus 5 plus 3, 1 over 3 raised to 6 minus 5 plus 3, that will be equal to 1/3 plus 3. Okay, simplify 3. Okay, 3 divide 3 is 1 times 1 is equal to 1. 3 divide 1 is 3 times 3 is 9. So our final answer will be 10 all over 3. Okay, since f of 3 is equal to 10 over 3, therefore the limit of 1 over 3 raised to x minus 5 plus 3 as x approaches 3 is equal to 10 over 3. So this is our final answer. So for number 2, we'll evaluate the limit of e. Okay, so by the way, yung unang example natin ay isang exponential function. So why? Because we see a variable x in the exponent. So for our next item, our next example, we have e raised to 2x minus 3 plus 7. We will evaluate the limit at x as x approaches 5. So again, this is an example of an exponential function since we can see a variable x in the exponent. So we will just substitute the 5 to x. We will get f of 5 is equal to e raised to 2 times 5 minus 3 plus 7. So we can use our calculator here. So e raised to 10 minus 3 plus 7, e raised to 7 plus 7. Okay, so simply use our calculator. What will be the answer? E raised to 7 plus. So we'll get the answer of 1103.633. Okay, so since f of 5 is equal to 1103.6333158, therefore the limit of e raised to 2x minus 3 plus 7 as x approaches 5 is equal to also 1103.6333158. For number 3, okay, so this is already a logarithmic function. So we'll evaluate the limit of logarithm of 3x squared plus 2x minus 4 to the base 3 as x approaches 5. We will get f of 5. We substitute 5 to the x variables plus 2 times 5 minus 4 logarithm base 5 of 5 squared is 25. Okay, times 3 will be 75 plus 10 minus 4. Okay, so we will get logarithm of 81 to the base 5. So sabi, logarithm of 81 to the base 5. So our answer is 2.7304. So, so our answer is 4 since ang base pala ay 3. So we get, so we must raise 3 to 4 to get the value of 81. Okay, let's check using our calculator. 3 lang po pala yung ating base. So the answer is 4. Okay, so since f of 5 is equal to 4, therefore limit of logarithm of 3x squared plus 2x minus 4 as x approaches 5 is equal to 4. Let's now have the natural logarithm or the ln of 4x plus 14. Okay, evaluate the limit of the function as x approaches negative 3. So we will just get the f of negative 3 ln of 4 times negative 3 plus 14. So f of negative 3 is equal to the ln of negative 12 plus 14 ln of positive 2. Simply input it on our calculator. So we get 0.6931. And thus, since f of negative 3 is equal to 0.6931, therefore the limit of the ln of 4x plus 14 as x approaches negative 3 is equal to 0.693147. For number 5, again, we will have the logarithmic function like number 4. So evaluate the logarithm of 2x minus 4 to the base 2 plus logarithm of 7x plus 4 to the base 2 as x approaches 4. So simply substitute 4 to the function. So logarithm of with the base 2 of 2 times 4 minus 4 plus logarithm with the base 2 of 7 times 4 plus 4. Logarithm of with the base 2 of 4 times 2 is 8 minus 4. We have 2 plus the logarithm with the base 2 of 28 plus 4 is 32. And that will give us logarithm of 4, the base 2 is 2, plus logarithm of 32 with the base 2 is 5. We'll get the final answer of 7. So since f of 4 is equal to 7, therefore the limit of 2x minus 4 with the base 2 as x approaches 4, okay, plus logarithm of 7x plus 4 with the base 2 is equal to 7. So yung buo na yan ang ating final answer. For number 6, we have a trigonometric function. So, theta natin, yung katabi ng ating trigonometric function is in radian measure na po. So hindi na siya degrees. So we will just evaluate the limit of cosine x as x approaches pi. So substitute pi, f of pi is equal to cosine of pi. So cosine of pi is, okay, as we recall on our unit circle, cosine of pi is negative 1. So since f of pi is equal to negative 1, therefore the limit of cosine x as x approaches pi is equal to negative 1. Next, the limit of sine of 2 raised to sine of x over 6 as x approaches pi. So the trigonometric function is again in radian measure. We have the to evaluate the function at x is equal to pi. So f of pi is equal to 2 raised to sine of pi over 6. 2 raised to sine pi over 6 is, okay, ang sine ng pi over 6, recalling, is 1/2. And then you have the 2 raised to 1/2 or the square root of 2. So since f of pi for number 7 is equal to square root of 2, therefore the limit of 2 raised to sine x over 6 is equal to square root of 2. Now we will be examining the graph and find the limit of the function as x approaches c. So for number 1, we have the limit of 4 sine of 2x as x approaches 0 from the left. So nasan yung 0? So buong to yung 4 sine of 2x. That is our function. Okay. Ito po yung x is equal to 0. Ang tinamaan niya sa ating graph ay 0, 0. So ang y coordinate or f of x is also 0. That's why iyon yung ating limit. And as we observe from the left and from the right, okay, so y value approaches 0. For number 2, the limit of 4 sine of 2x as x approaches 3 pi over 4. So sine by 3 pi over 4. Okay. So yun yan. So 3 pi over 4 yung x. And negative 4 yung y. So that's why So negative 4 yung ating limit. As we observe on the graph, from left and from the right, y value approaches negative 4. Next, we have number 3, limit of 4 sine of 2x as x approaches pi over 4 as well. So we will just substitute or simply look on the x is equal to pi over 4. Okay, so ito po yun. So this coordinate is pi over 4 and 4. As you can see, y coordinate is 4. So our limit of f of x as x approaches pi over 4 is equal to 4. As we can see from the graph, the y value gets closer and closer to 4 as x approaches pi over 4. So, punta naman tayo sa special limits. Okay, kailangan nyo rin pong sauluhin to. So, pag binigyan ko kayo ng limit of sine t over t as t approaches 0, okay, kung ano man yung variable dito, yun na rin dapat yung makita kong value sa inyong function. So, sine t over t as t approaches 0 is always equal to 1. So, the limit of 1 minus cosine t over t as t approaches 0 is 0 on the other hand. The limit of e raised to t minus 1 over t as t approaches 0 is 1. Okay. Again, limit of sine t over t as t approaches 0 is equal to 1. The limit of 1 minus cosine t all over t is equal to 0. And the limit of e raised to t minus 1 over t as t approaches 0 is equal to 1. So, ang common nila is the t always approaches the value of 0. For the illustrative examples, so number 1, evaluate 1 minus the limit of 1 minus cosine 3 over 3t over 3t as t approaches 0. Okay, so yung exponent niya dito, yun or yung katabi ni trigonometric function natin is yun din yung nasa baba. So it follows this rule of special limit. So therefore, the limit of 1 minus cosine 3t over 3t as t approaches 0 is equal to 0. Okay. So for our second example, limit of sine t over t times e raised to t minus 1 over t. Here's the solution. Multiplication theorem. Pwede natin i-distribute yung limit sa bawat isa. So we get the limit of sine t over t as t approaches 0 multiply to the limit of e raised to t minus 1 over t. Okay? Meron tayong nakuhang sagot since limit of sine t over t as t approaches 0 is 1, and also limit of e raised to t minus 1 over t is t approaches 0 is 1. Okay, and 1 multiplied to 1 is equal to 1. So the limit of sine t over t times e raised to t minus 1 over t as t approaches 0 is equal to 1. So paano naman yung indeterminate form? So I have introduced this type 0 over 0 to you on our first week. So if the limit of f of x is equal to 0 as x approaches c, and the limit of f of x as x approaches z is equal to 0, and then nilagay natin sa numerator and then the denominator, evaluating it at f of c. So it is called the indeterminate forms of 0 over 0. So to find the value of an indeterminate form, it is essential to apply factoring by rationalizing. So sabi ko sa inyo, kapag 0 over 0 yung answer, kapag sinubstitute nyo yung value sa ating function, okay, so that means you can further simplify the given function. So hindi po agad undefined ang sagot. So number 1, the limit of x squared minus 2x minus 24 all over x minus 6 as x approaches 6. So let's try to evaluate the function at 6. That will be equal to f of 6 equals 6 squared minus 2 times 6 minus 24 all over 6 minus 6. Okay, further simplify. 6 minus 6 times 2 is 12 minus 24. 6 squared, I mean, is 36. That will be equal to 0 over 0. So indeterminate. So what we must do is to factor out or further simplify this function. Okay, so pwede natin po siyang i-simplify or i-factor as x the limit of x minus 6 times x plus 4. That will be equal to x minus 6. As x approaches 6, we will cancel out x minus 6. Thus, the limit, we can evaluate the limit of x plus 4 only as x approaches 6. So, substitute the value of x at 6. F of 6 is equal to 6 plus 4, and we will get the value of 10. Okay, thus, our answer is, our final answer is this. The limit of x squared minus 2x minus 24 over x minus 6 as x approaches 6 is equal to the limit of x plus 4 as x approaches 6 is equal to 10. For number 2, first substitute muna natin or evaluate the function at negative 1. Pag sinubstitute natin yung negative 1 sa ating function, we will get negative 1 squared plus 3 minus 2 over negative 1 squared minus 1. Okay. So simplify square root of -1 squared is 1 plus 3. Get square root of 4 minus 2 over 1 minus 1. So this will give us 2 minus 2 over 1 minus 1 is 0 over 0, which is also indeterminate. Pag indeterminate, we have to think of a way to simplify our function. So for this example, since hindi natin wala tayong pwedeng i-factor out and then i-cancel, we will be rationalizing the function. So rationalize natin yung given x squared plus 3 minus 2 all over x squared minus 1. Multiply natin sa kanyang conjugate. Conjugate ng numerator. So x squared plus 3 plus 2 all over square root of x squared plus 3 plus 2. So if we simplify this, this will be x squared plus 3 minus 4. And this will be squared. Okay, cancel out. So we get x squared minus 1 multiply to the square root of x squared plus 3 plus 2. We further simplify. So x squared plus 3 minus 4 na lang yung natira sa numerator. And x squared minus 1 still multiply to x squared plus 3 plus 2. X squared minus 1 over x squared minus 1 times square root of x squared plus 3 plus 2. Okay, we can cancel out x squared minus 1 from the numerator and the denominator. So our final or the simplified function will be just 1 over square root of x squared plus 3 plus 2. Okay, so from this, pwede na nating substitute yung given natin na -1. So f of -1 will be equal to 1 over square root of -1 squared plus 3 plus 2. That will give us square root of 1 plus 3. Tapos nasa labas yung plus 2. Okay, 1 over square root of 4 plus 2. 1 over 2 plus 2 is 4. So that will give us answer of 1/4. Okay. So medyo mahaba yung solution pero we just find a way to simplify the function para hindi siya maging indeterminate. Okay. So now our final answer will be this. The limit of square root of x squared plus 3 minus 2 over x squared minus 1 as x approaches -1 is equal to the limit of 1 over x squared of x squared plus 3 plus 2 is equal to 1/4. Okay, so and that's it for our lesson for the second week. Okay, evaluating limits of transcendental functions and special limits as well as the indeterminate forms.